Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to see all of these people coming in from all over the world. That always just warms my heart and gives me hope. So welcome, welcome, wherever you are in the world today. We're so excited to welcome Ayanna to talk to us today about inclusive spaces, speaking from her lived experiences. So just a few guidelines before we start, as usual. Uh, if you can keep yourself on mute if you're not speaking or communicating directly, that would be great for those of us who have auditory processing issues. Um, we're going to have Ayanna speak first, share their information, and then we'll have the Q&A. So if you could hold off on your questions until then, that would be great. If you are communicating primarily through the chat, if you want something read out loud to be shared, just if you could write read before your comment or question. I will be looking mostly at the chat and helping out that way. So I don't want to miss anyone. Anyone feel free to get my attention if I've missed someone. And as usual, Autistic Voices first. This is one of the few spaces literally in the world where we can really be ourselves, talk freely about our experiences, and explore our culture. It's a beautiful thing. So with that, I will turn it over to Ayanna. I'll probably come on after the main portion to remind people to raise their hand to participate. And so, yeah, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. I just want to pull up a few of my notes. I'm super organized, and that's how I keep up with things. So I'm just going to start by introducing myself, telling you a little bit about myself. I'm an autism advocate. I'm a children's book illustrator, author. My latest book is called I'm Autistic and I'm Phenomenal. And it follows a little black autistic girl around, and it's a day in her life. I'm a former choreographer, and I am dedicated to advancing autism awareness and acceptance. If you know me, you know that I'm more toward acceptance than awareness, but I am the founder of Black Autism Acceptance Day, and it's an initiative created to uplift, celebrate, and center Black autistic individuals and their families from all around the world. I have illustrated 30 children's books, and I made an intentional choice to feature disabled characters in the books that I illustrate. I've illustrated books of children in wheelchairs, children who have vitiligo, the autistic characters. So I'm about inclusion, and it comes out through my artwork. My main advocacy is self-advocacy, and I speak through my lived experiences. So yeah, that's that's who I am. So I'm just gonna get right into the conversation that I want to have with you guys today. Um, I want to start with something really simple, and that basically is that autism doesn't look the same on everyone. Um, a lot of times I get, oh, well, you don't look autistic, and I think that people forget like that it's such a broad spectrum and autism doesn't discriminate. So for decades, I feel like autism has been treated like it looks the same for everybody. The dominant image of autism, and traditionally, and the textbook example, research studies, media, it's been focused and centered on like little white boys. So when someone doesn't match that image, especially in a black woman like myself or a little black girl, things can go unseen. But it's not just because you're autistic, but it's because of what society has been taught about autism, and it's because of, we've been taught the wrong things about autism, of what autism is supposed to look like. And I think something that is very important that is people need to see the entire picture. Like, many Black autistic women grow up, like me, I knew that I was different, but I didn't have a language for it and I didn't have a name for it. So I couldn't name it. So it was really hard for me to know who I was. And, growing up undiagnosed, I am a millennial and I was only diagnosed about 10 years ago. And I'm going to get into my diagnosis story as well. Sometimes you can be called to, it was either I was shy, then I was sensitive, then I was too much. So then it became like, I became like an expert at like studying social rules and like rehearsing conversations, forced eye contact, smiling at the right time. But what that kind of did for me as a black autistic little girl, I was around a lot of adults. So I'm studying social rules and rehearsing conversation of adults. So then I was just like, they were just like, oh, she's grown. She's a fast little grown little girl. Black autistic people, we don't get the grace that others do. But I do not force eye contact anymore. I have set boundaries. And if I don't know if I'm supposed to smile, I'm not going to smile. But I do mask, and for black women, masking is very layered. It's not just masking autism traits, it's also like navigating racial stereotypes, like being careful not to be labeled angry, which before me pre-diagnosis, I was always labeled angry. It was always like the angry black woman, and you don't want to be the loud black girl or the black girl that's quiet, the black girl that's awkward or too emotional or too distant. So I think that's something that people really don't understand that what can you what should I call it? Oh, the constant self-monitoring is really exhausting. And when autism is missed, it doesn't just delay a diagnosis, it delays like your self-understanding and your self-worth. And that can lead to anxiety, which I had as a child and we didn't know what it was. Back then autism wasn't spoken about in the black community at all. We didn't know I was autistic, and anxiety and mental health is stigmatized in the black community. So I had anxiety and we didn't know. Depression, which there are still times where I go through depression, burnout, just because of years of masking. So everything else just kind of feels harder for me. But I feel like when people see the whole picture, expanding or understanding autism, so it includes those have been like historically overlooked. So I'm gonna try to keep my diagnosis story as briefly as possible. But my family always knew that I was different. And being a millennial growing up at that time, we didn't know anything about autism. I didn't know anything about autism. I would see like posters about autism, but it would always be like a little white boy in the poster. So I didn't even know like my ignorance. I didn't know any black autistic people. I didn't know black people could be autistic. So they knew I was different. I feel like besides being black, the reason why I kind of like fell through the cracks is because I'm an artist. And people are always like, oh, artists are so eccentric. That's just how she is. Leave her alone. So when the point where I feel like it was like a turning point that, I was a little bit different and I had some stuff going on was like that shift from like teenage years to adulthood where I just couldn't do it. And, I had people saying, oh, she's just lazy. She don't want to do nothing with her life. And, just like outsiders who really didn't know me. And like to this day, like there are still things, simple things that people probably feel I should know how to do, but I don't. And like my dad does my banking, and when as a chronically ill person, I see a lot of specialists, and he still does like my paperwork when I see a new specialist. So everybody always knew I was different. So getting right to how I was diagnosed, people were just calling me angry and suspecting I had bipolar. So I was put in a psychiatric hospital against my will. Um, I I was there for 3 months. And after like 2.5 months, they still, didn't know what to do with me. They were saying that I was bipolar and they put me on a medication for bipolar, which was lithium, and it destroyed my body. Like to this day, I'm on other medications to help like with the things that my body needs now because of that lithium, a drug that I didn't need just because they thought that I was bipolar. Because I always say this, like before a black woman is ever considered that we might be neurodivergent, we get that angry black woman label. And so after 2.5 months, one doctor said, "Oh, I think that she's on the spectrum." So they brought in a team. My assessment was about 2 days long, 2 or 3 days, and a couple hours each day. It was very grueling. Came back with the treatment team a couple days later, and they were like, "Yeah, she's on the spectrum." We also found out that I have ADHD, that I'm dyslexic. I have like, I'm a little emotionally stunted and I have a few delays. So we found out a lot, but the main thing that made the most sense to me was that I was autistic. So I was like, wow, like, um, I feel like it took so long for me to be diagnosed, obviously for systemic reasons. And this is why I feel like breaking down systemic barriers is so important. But this isn't just about individuals being misunderstood. It is about systems. Like in healthcare, Black children are diagnosed later than their white peers. And I'm gonna say it is on average, about 3 years later than their white peers. And Black children are more likely to be mischaracterized before being accurately assessed. Like in schools, Black neurodivergent students are disciplined at higher rates instead of supported, criminalized instead of saying, let's help this child. Let's say this, instead of saying this child is a threat. I was talking to someone that reached out to me on, I think, TikTok, and they were like that they work at a school with autistic children, and they always say and punish the Black autistic child, but then they support the white autistic child. So it is about systems and it does start at the top. And in my opinion, none of this is accidental. That's bias that has been built into the systems. And just gonna touch on underserved communities. Access to evaluations can be expensive, and I feel like people don't know that and they don't understand that. Like specialists may not be available in every community. An example is underserved communities, so they don't have access to get the autism assessment. A lot of them go to like clinics, and when you get to the clinic, they want you in and they want you out. They're not going to give you the treatment that you need and the attention that you need. And I feel like when some families try to advocate, their concerns are not taken seriously. That's where the medical gaslighting begins. That's where the medical bias begins. And clinics don't look for autism traits, which to me it doesn't make any sense because clinics in underserved communities can do the initial assessment. It's like 13 minutes, and that 13 minutes can change a life. That 13 minutes can stop a child from going through life not knowing who they are. That 13 minutes can help to prevent somebody from having self-hate. That 13 minutes can show somebody that they're worthy and they have a place in this world. So, like, when we talk about equity, we're not just talking about kindness. We're talking about policy. We're talking about training. We're talking about representation, accountability, because like you can't dismantle a barrier you refuse to name. My advocacy is self-advocacy based on my lived experiences. And I feel like that's where the change begins, like listening. Like Black autistic women, we've been telling our stories online and in community spaces. I must say that a lot of autistic spaces that I have come encounter with are not always safe for Black people. And some of the most racist people that I have met have been autistic. And you don't get a pass for being racist just because you're autistic. And even in like research and interviews, but too often I feel like Black voices aren't centered in mainstream conversations, and that's also a part of the problem because people aren't really familiarized with it. So when they do see it, they kind of don't pay it any attention. Like just recently, Mattel released the Black Barbie, and I asked him, I was like, "Is there a black one?" And they said, "No, not at this time." But the post went viral, and people were so outraged because I asked, "Was there a Black Barbie?" And I'm like, we use the word inclusion a lot, and it triggers a lot of people, but why are you triggered when it's just like people want to be feel seen? Little black autistic girls want to feel seen too. So when society actually listens, they hear stories of dual awareness, of code switching. Black culture is based on respect. Someone could think you're getting smart and you will get in trouble, think you're being fresh when you don't know how to like just navigate socially. Like me, I didn't know how to navigate socially, so people always thought that I was like talking back when I was just really trying to get clarity. You know, we're misunderstood and it's always we have an attitude or we're being defiant. I remember being in trouble and I just was trying to get clarity and I just wanted understanding. Um, and a teacher, when I was a little girl, little black undiagnosed girl, a teacher actually choked me because I needed extra help. She was our substitute teacher. She came in and, like in my third grade mind, every teacher was wonderful, like my teacher, but not her. She, like all day, at the time I didn't know that she was mistreating me, but like by the end of the day, she was like, "I'm so tired of you." And she just choked me. So I'm just like, this, you are a white woman choking a black disabled child. There is really something wrong with that. And she wasn't even fired. She just wasn't allowed back into our school district. So I feel like sometimes people don't understand how important lived experience is. I know there are a lot of people who have degrees and they're doctors and they're therapists, and that's all great. Nobody's taking anything away from you, but you really can't be an expert of something that you didn't live. People come on my videos and they're like, "You don't know what you're talking about," but my lived experiences are facts. So get off my page. And also, when we um when we center Black voices, um stereotypes begin to crack. Research questions change, policies shift, understanding deepens. And like and this can be also something as simple as people just feeling less alone. And there's just something about hearing someone say, "Me too," or I understand you. So this brings me into building spaces that heal and include. This is why I'm really happy to be here today. I think what you guys are doing, making safe, inclusive spaces for autism, a lot of people can take note of that, and a lot of people need to take note of that. Inclusion is definitely a word that we use a lot, but inclusion isn't just about being invited into the room. It's about being able to breathe once you're there. It's about being listened to. It's about being taken seriously. Another thing that is also a problem is tokenism. It's another problem for a lot of organizations that have their token Black autistic person because it's safe, and safe conversations don't bring change. Uncomfortable conversations need to be had, or you're not going to grow in comfort. And I always say that when people come to my page, I tell them what I'm about. I tell them I'm a self-advocate. I tell them some of the things we're going to be speaking about. And I kindly say that if you can't handle these conversations, my page just might not be the place for you. So, building spaces that heal and include, um, it also includes not having to explain your entire existence just to be understood, not having to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Like, why do we have to shrink? Why do we have to make ourselves uncomfortable for the comfort of others? Healing spaces recognize the whole person, race, neurodivergence, gender, culture, all of it. And it might look like culturally responsive therapy. It might look like workplaces that normalize accommodations instead of treating people, autistic people in the workplace and other spaces that they're doing us some type of favor. And it might look like classrooms that prioritize support over punishment. Like I said earlier, like the Black autistic child is more likely to be punished and be supportive. And belonging happens when environments adapt to people instead of forcing us to constantly adapt to environments. Like, just any autistic person. We have to exist in this world with neurotypical people. And I think sometimes they forget that our minds were not wired for this world. So navigating this world is going to be a little more challenging for us. And there are going to be times when we're going to need you to accommodate us a little bit more. Um, and, in inclusive spaces, people should feel comfortable unmasking, but we have to look at the reality that unmasking isn't safe for everybody. Unmasking is a luxury. Black women, we don't always have the luxury to unmask. We can be looked at as a threat. Like, people just don't accept you and you're just not allowed to be yourself. So I think people do forget that unmasking is a luxury. And I feel like taking action through radical inclusion, um, it pinpoints the parts that matter most. And awareness is powerful, but awareness awareness alone doesn't change systems. And just for those who might not be familiar with the term, radical inclusion means like you're making sure everyone feels welcome and you're making sure everyone is like able to take part. And it focuses on like removing barriers so all people, especially those who feel left out, autistic people, disabled people, can belong and be included. Um, Inclusive spaces asks institutions to rethink hiring practices, to invest in culturally competent diagnostic training, to fund um, community-led initiatives, to examine discipline policies. They definitely need to examine discipline policies. In the last few weeks, I'm sure you've all seen how many disabled children and how many autistic children have been being abused by authority figures and people who people trusted their child with. So radical inclusion, it asks individuals to challenge these stereotypes in real time, um, to amplify marginalized voices. And one of the reasons, like, I'm really big on amplifying voices. That's probably the reason why I started my podcast. I do have a podcast. It's called Black Girl Diagnosed. And every 2 weeks, I speak with a neurodivergent guest or a guest who has struggled with mental illness. And because I feel like everybody has a story, but everybody's not always allowed to tell their story because, it's not easy to put yourself out there. And then sometimes people don't give you the opportunity or give you the platform. So me being big on analyzing voices and amplifying voices to the marginalized voices is very big on me. So that's why I started my podcast. But also, I think people need to understand that radical inclusion, it's not about charity. It's about like equality and it's more so about justice. Um, it's about recognizing that when we design systems that work for the most marginalized, we create something better for everyone. So what I'll say to that is that being different was never the problem. Being autistic was never the problem. The problem was a system too narrow to hold us, a system that was refusing to hold us, a system that pushed back when we were trying to, break through and be like, okay, we all live here together. We have to exist in this same space. So there is work ahead of us. There's a lot of work ahead of us. But I feel like working together will get us there a lot faster than not working together. And to build something wider, to build something more compassionate, something more accurate. Um, and I feel like a world where Black autistic women and other autistic individuals and all neurodivergent people, we are not just simply accommodated, but we're understood, we're seen, we're protected, we're valued, and we are seen as a person and not just a diagnosis. Because I feel like a lot of times, sometimes you don't really get the chance for people to get to know you because they're just looking at you as a diagnosis. So that stigma right there is harmful. But being understood, seen, valued, look at us not as a diagnosis, but as a person, and we need to be celebrated instead of punished. So I'm going to read a piece of an article that I wrote, and it's speaking about survival wiring in Black autistic people. Well, with my Black autistic experience. If you ever move through life feeling like you're constantly scanning for danger, adjusting yourself to avoid conflict, or pushing through exhaustion just to make it through, you're not broken. You're likely experiencing what many therapists, I learned this from my therapist, and trauma-informed practitioners called survival wiring. Survival wiring isn't a formal diagnosis. It's a way of understanding what happens when your body, brain, and nervous system have adapted over time to environments that feel unsafe, invalidating, or overwhelming. It's what your system does when it decides that survival is more important than comfort, connection, or authenticity. For autistic people, survival wiring is also quiet but constant undercurrent because let's be real. The world wasn't designed with a neurotypical, neurodivergent people in mind, but when you're Black and autistic, that survival mode gets layered with even more complexity, pressure, and silence. From an early age, many autistic people are conditioned to hide or suppress the parts of ourselves that don't fit. Maybe we were told to stop fidgeting, make eye contact, or use our words, even when they didn't come easily. Maybe we were punished for meltdowns and needing space or for reacting too strongly. Over time, these reactions from what others teach the body and the world isn't safe. When you mask, comply, you disappear a little. What begins as a coping mechanism becomes automatic and eventually your default. This is survival wiring. It looks like a constant self-monitoring. I touched on that earlier. It felt like anxiety that never quite turns off. It shows up as people pleasing, emotional numbness, perfection, shutdowns, or masking so well that even you forget what's underneath. The brain and body do this to protect you, but protecting can also be a prison. Now add race to the equation. Black autistic individuals often face a much stronger and steeper uphill battle, and one that is often overlooked even in neurodivergent and mental health spaces. Autistic traits that can be considered quirky or harmless in white children are frequently seen as disruptive, aggressive, or threatening when experienced by Black children. A white autistic boy may seem eccentric for avoiding eye contact or having sensory overload, but Black autistic boys may be seen as defiant. A white autistic girl who struggled to speak in class might be called shy, but a Black autistic girl may be labeled as lazy or disrespectful. I went through that. These are not minor differences, they are life altering. Because of this, Black autistic children are often misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, or never diagnosed at all. Instead of receiving support, they're disciplined. Instead of being heard, they're silenced. Many grow up knowing they're different, but never knowing why, and never understanding why. And that lack of recognition only deepens the need to survive, to blend in, to perform, to push down their trust, and just to be left alone. For many Black autistic people, survival becomes cultural, even generational. There's a deep, often unspoken code. Don't draw attention. Don't talk back. Don't let them see you struggle. You have to be twice as good to get half as far. These messages also come from places of protection passed down by parents and elders who had to survive racism themselves. But when the message meets autism, they can become unbearable. Imagine being neurologically wired to process the world differently and simultaneously being told that you're being defiant and you're far from the norm and it could be dangerous. It's an impossible bind. Don't act too autistic and don't act too Black. The pressure to survive becomes constant and the cost is invisibility. The truth is that survival wiring works until it doesn't. It keeps people safe in hostile environments, but it doesn't allow for rest, joy, or freedom. Over time, this chronic survival mode leads to burnout, depression, anxiety, emotional shutdown, and a profound loss of many Black autistic adults reaching a breaking point before they ever get a diagnosis, let alone support they need. Some never get it at all, but there is a way forward. Healing from survival wiring starts with recognition. It means naming the reality that your body learned to survive by adapting to unsafe worlds. It means understanding that masking wasn't weakness, it was brilliance under pressure. And then slowly it means beginning to unlearn the idea that you have to hide to be safe. It means resting, unmasking, asking for help, and reconnecting with parts of yourself you had to silence. It means remembering that you are not here just to survive. If your Black autistic person can be carrying the weight of survival writing, know this, the way you move through the world is not a defect. It's a result of your nervous system doing a job under impossible circumstances. You were surviving, but now you deserve more than that. You deserve to thrive. You deserve to take up space, to be understood, to feel peace in your own body, and to be your full self unapologetically. You're not too much, you're simply made for survival. So that's the article that I wrote. It's on my Substack if anybody wants to check out my Substack. So I'm ready to take questions if anybody has any.
That was utterly brilliant.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you so much. And I usually like I'm better in like Q&A format. So um I had to like, really do some breathing and I'm like, you can do this. So
oh, it was just fantastic. We need this so much, as I don't need to tell you. Casey has always been committed to true inclusion. So I'd like to ask how we can do better from your point of view. And then I would actually like to get out of the way so I can learn more receptively. I don't want to put Stacy on the spot, but she's our longtime colleague. Um, Maybe she can help us keep this moving. And I would really like to make a lot of space for people of color to speak up here. So let's give that priority. So thanks if you could answer that.
you how can you help?
Yes, how can CASY as a global organization more effectively expand to actively include the voices of people of color?
Well, I think from what I've seen and from what I've learned about you, I feel like you guys are already doing it. I feel like you continue to bring in Black voices and other people of color. Everybody shares their story. You can see it from different perspectives. I feel like you guys are already doing what needs to be done. And then just the fact that you're asking that, that's what people need. People need to be open open enough to like listen to autistic people. And you guys are obviously doing that. Just that's why we're here.
Thank you. That means a lot. The people out there that would like to share their experiences, a lot. Ayanna, are you comfortable monitoring the hand raising and calling on people?
Do I go to the chat?
Um, I am not sure how that works. Um, I can try to do it. I'm not familiar with it, but I'll give it a try. Or, people can just sort of jump in. I think there are probably few enough people that if they want to just jump in
Yeah,
and
I'm not
answer
really
the
that
phone.
tech savvy, so I don't like get on it.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. And again, if Stacy is out there and wants to help out,
I
that would be
I did
great.
want to I wanted to jump in based off of, and thank you so much for what you said. I don't know if I mean I'm like texting my moms and like, oh my gosh, and like you got to hear this. Um but you were talking about the miss and I'm Stacy, so I work in education and I work with parents and children. So the misdiagnosis, right? Our kids cannot possibly be autistic. Oh, they're emotionally disturbed. Oh, they're one parent home. Like there's all kind of other reasons why they could be doing that. One of the things that I wanted to ask your advice on, or if you had any suggestions for parents or older teens who are autistic. Dawn said when you finished, oh my gosh, that was brilliant, right? So, my experience is when a Black and Brown child is not being looked at for the proper diagnosis of autism, and then I come in and say, oh my gosh, look at their brilliance. They still don't want to see it. They
Yeah.
still don't believe it. They still don't want to see it. They think they guessed, they test it. And so, it's this, oh my gosh, it's exhausting, right? It's like trying to prove something that's very obvious. And of course, we're dealing with that in our day to day. But is there any suggestion that you have for parents who feel defeated or don't have the words to advocate in reference to look at my child's brilliance, right? Because the deficits are so often just listed and the brilliance is missed.
What I would say to that is for the parents to definitely become your child's biggest advocate, if you can, and if you have the access to like a self advocate, I would say partner with a self advocate that can kind of help you like move things along, and to not ex just accept the answer that you're given about your child, like be your child's biggest advocate.
I think the that's the struggle with our Black and brown families because they're sitting in a room with 12 white people telling them something and they don't
Yeah.
feel like they can. So I appreciate you talking to the community. I will keep talking loudly, and we're all here to try to shift that. So thank you very much for,
Thank you.
I'm going to tell my parents that too. Just don't accept it. Just
There's a comment to be read in the chat. This was awesome. Thank you. I'm also a Black woman, late diagnosed as autistic at age 37.
See it.
We are definitely all different. I'm so glad people are beginning to realize that autism doesn't have a look.
Yes, exactly. And thank you. When people are like, you don't look autistic, I'm like, well, can you tell me what autism looks like? And most of the time they don't have an answer because autism has no look. Autism does not discriminate. So I don't think they ever expect me to say anything back to them when they're like, well, you don't look autistic. And I'm like, well, tell me what autism looks like. Tell me what I'm supposed to look like, and they can't do it.
it it you when you just said that, it made me think of my school, our mission or whatever you want to call it, phrase is we don't learn based on boxes. We don't have boxes, right? We're not trying to check off things. And so when you said the statement of what is it they look like, people want a box to check off. They want
Yeah.
everyone like somebody made up a list and we're all supposed to check the boxes. And if you're not on the check box, then people don't, it's we have a lot of work to do, but you know what? We're doing it here. That's why we're
Yeah,
here.
and they also like what don't they understand that autism is a spectrum. So like even in a Black autistic woman, we're not all going to be exactly the same. Our traits are going to present differently. So that's why I'm like, well, what does autism look like?
Uh, has a question, and actually, I think this works great. If people want to let me know in the chat that they'd like to jump on, that would be wonderful.
So first, our questions don't go on the recording, right?
The way that works is that Roger, my co-director, anonymizes everything, so your face and voice will be altered.
Okay. That makes sense. Um, yeah, so something that I have been running into, yeah, I'm an Indian American woman, and I've been in different neurodivergent and autistic spaces. Somewhere it's mostly white people, somewhere it's mostly people of color. Also, friendships with people of all different cultural backgrounds, immigrants, etc. And something that I've run into, which I'm curious whether you have any advice for navigating this kind of thing. So it's been really disappointing that a lot of the spaces with more people of color or the friendships as well have not lasted, or we've had to take long breaks because of pressures when people's ways of getting their needs met are dependent on ways that they're used to everyone around them masking. and I've run into this like with autistic women, regardless of ethnicity, and like neurodivergent, people of color, especially women. Yeah, and I'm trying to think about how to approach mutual accommodation. Um, how to voice my needs. Um, recognizing that sometimes people who've been seen as a threat earlier in their life may see my needs or expression or like points where I hit my limit as a threat, especially if they've been marginalized in ways that I haven't. Um, and I really want to do whatever I can to accommodate others. But at the same time, recognizing that I have limited capacity and being able to explain that, can be difficult sometimes when people have not had, when they haven't had past exposure to people expressing similar limits being accepted. So just curious whether you have any thoughts around any of that.
About you feeling safe in spaces or you being a threat?
Oh, about just how to navigate. Well, yeah, because it's all related. Where well, I'm not safe if people feel threatened by me. Um, and they're obviously not feeling safe either. Um, and yeah, just thinking about when to voice what, how proactive to be, but then sometimes that opens more cans of worms.
Okay.
Yeah, and sorry if that's a lot
No,
or
it's
doesn't
okay.
make sense.
From what
I think you're trying to say, I can only speak from me personally and what I go through and how I navigate these spaces. Like sometimes when you enter a space, you know that is not the place for you. You'll go in, you'll tell your story, you'll speak about, me, I advocate mostly for Black autistic women. It rubs a lot of people the wrong way. They'll come to my page, they'll troll me. Um, I take advantage of the block button and I block them because people can be very cruel and they will drive you into drive you to the point where you don't even want to be online anymore, and it's like a two-way sword because with me, when I was diagnosed, I found community online, but then it was like I also found like hatred online. So it is it's a balancing act with me. I do use the block button and I just go where I feel safe and where I'm embraced.
Uh, had a question or a comment.
Thank you, Don. I wanted to say that this was phenomenal the whole time I was listening. Oh, it was brilliant. So, so brilliant. You said you're better with Q&A, but I really cannot imagine that presentation having been any better in any way. It was just, I was
Little like sometimes it's like I'm getting better, but I had a speech impediment, so that's why like talking for like long periods of time sometimes like I might get like a little tongue twisted or tied, and I'm a little self-conscious about that.
I see. Well, I noticed none of it, and even with it, it would have been absolutely brilliant and
thank you so
flawless.
much.
But I wanted to ask, well, number one, I can't wait for this recording to be on Roger's YouTube page because I need to refer so many people to it. If you won't mind, I need so many people in my company, in my office, to watch this recording. It's brilliant. But relating to that, I was hoping you would share like your website and maybe social media link or like your Substack link.
Yes. Okay. So I'm basically
Phenomenally autistic everywhere. On Blue Sky, I'm Ayanna Sanaa. On TikTok, I'm phenomenally autistic. On Instagram, I'm phenomenally autistic. YouTube, phenomenally autistic. And in most of these platforms, I have a link tree. So then, like, if you want to email me, my email is in there. Um, a link to my Amazon author page if you want to check out my books. So I'm basically phenomenally autistic on all platforms. Like if you go there and you just type phenomenally autistic in, I'm very easy to find. I'll pop up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to jump in, if I may, just to say, for a long time, we have wanted people to form their own platform within CASY if they are comfortable with that. We had briefly a people of color group. I don't know whatever happened to it, but I was sad to see that it kind of faded away. Anyone interested in making that happen has our full support. Whatever we can do to make that an ongoing thing would be incredible. And Roger just
Oh, thank you for putting my Instagram up.
we have about 15 minutes left, but certainly we can go over. I know it takes some people time to process and get their thoughts together to share. But yeah, I don't want to miss anyone if you want to jump in.
I have a really quick, easy question again, if I may. Ayanna, the article that you read from today, is that in your Substack?
Yes, that's on my Substack.
My Substack is phenomenally autistic. I am about a month behind on uploading because, I was like under the weather, so I couldn't really put all my energy into my advocacy at that time. So I am about the last article I wrote was probably about a month ago, but I am in the process of trying to get my Substack updated. I'll be going live on Substack soon with a few other advocates. So if you want to subscribe, you can stay updated with all that and all that we're going to be doing. We're going to be discussing Black Autism Acceptance Day. This is the first year, this is the inaugural year. So we're going to be speaking a lot about that. And just since I'm on that topic, I'm not going to name them yet, but I will name them eventually. I actually had a white-led organization tell me that they will only support Black Autism Acceptance Day if we put it in April. And I said no because I felt like they just wanted it to get like swallowed up in everything else with autism awareness. And I just feel like we need our own day. And I just feel like we don't want to be buried in everything else. So I told them no.
Well done. Bravo. And what's the title of the article so I can find it within your Substack article?
The
And I just read
Yes.
Survival Wiring in Black Autistic People.
Thank you.
Stacy, and then
So, Ayanna, this is just a statement for you. I don't know if you are familiar I grew up in a Southern Black family, and we have a phrase where we say you should give people their flowers before they die. And I wanted to give you your flowers because I have three amazing, brilliant Black girl autistic students.
Oh,
And
thank you so
your
much.
Instagram is one we look at often.
Thank
You
you.
are someone that they know, they aspire to just be themselves in their brilliant autistic way. So I just wanted to let you know that
Oh my
you
God, thank you
are
so much.
making a
If you want to
difference.
do a Zoom with them, maybe we can hook that up.
So cool. Yes.
Yeah.
and then
Can I just quickly ask? I missed quite a bit of it. Would you be sharing the recording or not?
I believe that they will be putting the recording on their YouTube page.
Do you know how long it will take for the recording to appear?
I can give you a kind of a short answer that we have quite a backlog because we had so many brilliant sessions scheduled this year, and Roger goes through and painstakingly anonymizes everyone, like I said, so that takes a bit of time. But he has been announcing on our social media platforms when those become available.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
don't think you ever got your turn.
Oh, yeah. I almost forgot. I'm all over the place right now, but I love, everything about your presentation. I enjoyed everything. I just
Thank you so
wanted
much.
Yes, so needed. So I'm Mexican American, second generation, and so I totally relate to, everything of your experience, and I wanted to share, uh, that I relate to what you said about something about, and I'm so glad you mentioned about navigating the cultural norms and
Yes.
neurodivergent norms, because I was like, yes, I call it the double masking.
Yes, yes,
Like we
because
have two masks that we have to put on. It's like our cultural norms that we have to watch out for, but then there are typical norms, and so it was like I was just so happy. I wanted to just share that, that I totally relate to that experience.
yeah, and sometimes
People don't understand like the cultural aspects of autism. Sometimes people come on my page and they're like, this is not just black autistic women, this is all autistic women. And I'm like, I'm
you know what, I'm
not going to argue with you, but if you don't have black skin, you'll never understand black culture, so you're not going to understand the cultural aspects of autism that we deal with.
Exactly. I have like so many thoughts coming at once. So I'm like, I can't organize my thoughts. I'm just, excited about this topic. But it's something I also love sharing, for me, growing up in a very traditional Hispanic, Mexican American, my family were immigrants, where I'm from the border town. And so, um, I always talk about, our cultural roles as women, Marianismo it's called, but just in general, the familiarismo, el respeto, I put it in the chat, it's like everything that we are, it's like goes against these roles that
yeah,
is put on the women. So when you said, when I'm just trying to when I'm talking and I'm direct and I'm trying to I'm questioning because I need clarity, we just process differently. We're shut down immediately, There's,
yeah, I remember being in trouble a lot.
When I was a little girl and I was just trying to get clarity, and they're like, oh, you're talking back. I'm not. I'm just trying to get clarity.
yes, I'm like, I'm not understanding where, where you're telling me, and especially for women, we're supposed to be quiet and compliant, in my family, and it's very hierarchical, respecting the the parents, and the grandparents, but children were not to be respected. Like we were flat out told, and I'm very, being autistic, and I was just diagnosed or not diagnosed, identified, self-identified, just a few years ago. Made my life made sense, but I'm just I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about,
About how you just self-identified a couple of years ago, and we're talking about cultural aspects in autism.
Yes, I was gonna lead. Oh yeah, the respect. Okay, my brain was like going all sorts of directions. Because I remember questioning. We all have the high sense of justice. We're very I guess not just literal, but I can't find the right word right now.
Well, I am very literal. I am.
Yeah, it's very literal, but we just see things for what they are, and when things
yeah,
don't make sense, yeah, we question, right?
yeah, somebody
Made a joke. They were like, if you don't want to know the truth, do not ask an autistic person because they're going to be direct with you. And I'm like, yeah, well, that sounds like me.
Yeah, so then I'd be like, this doesn't sound right, or this is not fair, especially, because the roles with the males were different. It's like they were allowed to do something and I wasn't, and that never, still to this day, never made sense to me. So I'm this like little itty bitty girl, like, how come he gets to and I can't? What's the difference? He's a boy, I'm a girl, but why? And then they'd be like, they would shut me down right away and be like, "Es falta de respeto." And then one time I was like, but how come I'm supposed to respect you guys and you don't respect me? And just being direct and logical. That's the word, logical. I couldn't find it. Very logical since I was a little girl. And they just like went off on me like, what? You're talking back, you're being disrespectful, and children are not meant to be respected. You
yeah,
only respect the elders.
yeah,
Like,
I
okay.
understand that completely.
Mm-hmm.
So
You're giving a session soon.
yes, thinking about it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm nervous.
Oh, if we love you so much. It's going to be so great. So just a quick shout out to everyone to look for that session. It's going to be great. Yeah, it's zooming right up, but
Oh no!
you'll have everyone's warm support. I promise you. We had a read aloud question. Hang on a second.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I see it. I'm not familiar with the books you've illustrated. Which one is your favorite and why? I've always looking for things with disability representation. My favorite book that I illustrated and why I wrote and illustrated that I'm most proud of is I'm Autistic and I'm Phenomenal. It speaks about the challenges of autism because it's not always fun sunshine and roses, but the focus is not the challenges. It also speaks about the joys and how you can have autistic joy, and it highlights some of our strength, and it's just seen through the eyes of a little black autistic girl. So that's the book that I'm most proud of.
Anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah, I have a question actually. So I come from a mixed background, and on my mum's side, she was born and raised in Zambia. So I think for me, masking isn't just for outside of my family space, it's also within it because culturally it's very difficult for them to accept any kind of mental health or neurodiversity. My mum isn't diagnosed but highly suspected to be ADHD, potentially ADHD, and I just wondered if you'd had experience of that cultural within your own space and your own family and how you navigate that.
Oh yes, absolutely, especially by our elders. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother when I was a little girl. I felt like she always knew that I was different, so she was very protective. But, sometimes her friends would come over and sometimes they would speak and I wouldn't speak back because I couldn't. I didn't know what a nonverbal episode was. And they'd be like, "Oh, look at her. She's so rude. She doesn't have any manners. You're supposed to speak to your elders when you're spoken to." So I've definitely experienced that and I know how that feels. And we can't it's touchy when it comes to like our elders. They come from a different time. A lot of them say we didn't have autism back in our day. Yes, you did. Autism has always been around. But yeah, I definitely understand that and I've dealt with that.
Yeah, I can utterly relate to everything you said there. It's very difficult to navigate the
It
elders,
is.
including my own mom actually, because my nephew, my sister's son, has just been diagnosed, and my mom will still say like, "Oh, he'll grow out of it. It's just a phase." And
Yeah,
it's
Some people still do feel like autism ends when you're 18 and I'm like, no, it doesn't. You're gonna be autistic until you die. So,
yeah, we just learned to mask better.
yes.
Thank you.
thank you.
Stacy was just talking about this in our last session, I believe it was, um, because she travels all over the world, and also her culture of origin. Um, I won't do justice to it. Stacy, can you jump in and recap what you were saying?
So I was listening to what you had said. Is it
It's a Welsh name. Yeah.
I'm in Mexico trying to learn Spanish, so my phonemes, I don't even know which phoneme I'm using half the time. But Dawn was referring to one of the things that I talk about, and I'm really interested just by default from working with families, is the cultural impact on autism. My Southeast Asian families are shunned. Like you're not invited to the like anything. Like you can't even like participate in the life of the family if you have a child that is different in any way. So when I was thinking, when we're talking about inclusiveness and acceptance, it's like we need acceptance just in general within sometimes our family and our culture. And to Ayanna's point, and I'll finish here in reference to we know our parents came from a different time, and especially in black and brown families in the States, a lot of things were put in place to be able to stay alive. And so, even simple things like, my grandma's like, wash the beans. I'm like, we don't have to do that anymore. They're in the package clean, but you do it because that's what you do. But a lot of that is within our own culture community of trying to wedge away some of those constructs that were necessary maybe back then, but we don't have to do it now. Um, and I'll just end with my perspective in a humorous way is I don't understand why married people have to share a bedroom. We don't live on the farm in a one house anymore. I think everybody can have their own bed. Like, who made up that rule? That was back in the day when we had a one house room. Now we can spread out. But anyway, that is clearly I like to sleep by myself. But thank you so much for your insight. And I love this engagement, and hopefully we can do this again. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick practical question. Back when I was regularly teaching martial arts, and I would have Black kids in my class, and so often they made it there because they were having trouble or they were troublemakers or whatever. And I'd know immediately these kids are autistic, and I would talk to their parents, making sure the kid was there, and say, I'm autistic, and here's the great thing about it, and here's what I think is going on with your child. But I was unaware of the sensitivity of the stigma, and people
Yeah,
would
there's a
get
lot of
really
a lot of
angry.
stigmas. Definitely a lot of
Yeah. So
stigmas.
what is a
Um,
better way to handle that?
Honestly, you have to do a temperature check with who you're actually speaking to. Like some people you really can't help and you really can't do anything about it. I've seen people online, giving their kids vitamins that are advertised to cure autism. Sometimes when people get their children's autism diagnosis, there is some grief that comes with that, and you do have to accept it. And I know it can't be easy for them, but it's not the end of the world. And so you really just have to do a temperature check. I have a cousin who's a social worker and she works with autistic children and we talk all the time about it. And she's like, "Oh, what do you think that like this might be a neurodivergent child?" Because actually a family member of mine and I did mention it to um their mom that I think that they were neurodivergent and they are. So it really depends on some people you can't help, you gotta just maybe the school will pick up on it. For me, my school didn't pick up on it. My family didn't pick up on it. And I feel like part of the reason though why my family again is because they just thought I was shy and I did theater. So, when I'm on theater and I'm on the stage and I'm coming alive, as a person I didn't really know where I fit in, but I knew that I can turn that character into something that I where I could fit. So, some people you just have to step back because they'll disrespect you.
Right.
Dawn, I'm sorry, Dawn. I didn't
Oh, that's
realize.
okay.
I have a nephew that is clearly autistic, lived with me for 2 years. I have known him the entire time I've been married. My in-laws and family from Jamaica still say, well, we know he's something. I'm like, I said he was autistic. Like, I'm sitting right here. I do this work every day, all day, and it's just nobody wants to hear it. I'm like, whatever. You just got to let it go.
Yeah, yeah, like every and the bad part is that it's the child that suffers, because parents might be in a little bit of denial. But I've learned that, some people it's not for your own well-being. You just have to let it go.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I always made sure I said it in front of the child because I thought, well, if it was me, it would stick in there and maybe it would lead eventually to my own, to their own self-identification. I don't know if that's the right thing. As you said, temperature check, which I am notoriously terrible about.
Yeah, and
So,
and again, like certain cultures, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day, like, I have very strong touch, taste, smell sensitivities. And I remember being a little girl and I couldn't eat the food. It was overstimulating me. It was making me gag. And they were like, "You don't waste food. When somebody gives you food, you're gonna sit there and eat that food." My dad used to be like, "She don't gotta eat it. She ain't eating that."
It's always great to have that supportive family member. I hear that a
Oh yeah,
lot.
he has my back. When I got diagnosed, actually, you know, I've spoken to white women as well, and they told me about all the resources that they got when they were diagnosed. And I told them, I was like, you guys got like the freaking red carpet rolled out for you because when I got diagnosed, they kind of just like gave me my diagnosis and was like, okay, go out into the world and figure it out on your own. And luckily for me, my dad was just not accepting that. He got online, he found out what therapies would be for me, what therapies would help me, and we found out that CBT therapy and DBT therapy helped me most. But it was like I was given no resources. They were just like, okay, you autistic, bye, go home. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I see that all the time. My folks who raised me were sharecroppers, so I know just a little bit of that kind of stigma. It's not the same, but yeah, it's a sad thing to see. I had a question. I actually have to go to a different meeting, but y'all are welcome to continue as long as you can.
Yeah, I can stay for another 10 minutes. I have a podcast.
Great. I don't know if Stacy can stay. That would be awesome, or whoever feels like they can help run things. That would be great. But yeah, unfortunately, I have to go. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So, Ayan, if you don't mind, I had a follow-up question based on the conversation. So, just listening to you speak and how phenomenally you advocate for yourself, with that question I had earlier about the cultural side of things, and then when everyone else contributed, it sounded like a lot of us have been gaslit. So, bearing in mind with how phenomenally you advocate for yourself, how did you overcome those barriers? Because that's something that I really struggle with because it's so internalized from that cultural and familiar experience. I'm really struggling to overcome that to then be able to advocate for myself in public spaces like work and other various areas.
I definitely wasn't always like this. I felt like when I was diagnosed, I had to stay in my place, you know? But then, certain people, you have to set boundaries with people that benefit you. Like you can't really worry about other people's feelings. You have to do what's best for you. People don't understand how real autistic burnout is and like everything that we experience culturally and we experience with like how we're treated with people. They don't understand that that could lead to autistic burnout. Autistic burnout can last for years. It's not like neurotypical burnout. Some people never get out of autistic burnout. So for me, I definitely had to set some boundaries with people and and once you do that, it does become easier. Like even with my social media, I it's a safe space. We're here to talk. We can have these uncomfortable conversations in a civil way. And if you don't feel like you can do that on my page, you will get blocked.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Welcome.
If I could bottle up, I don't give a damn what other people think about me and give it to people, I would. I mean, I seriously would. Um, I don't know what I have in my DNA that drove my mom and teachers crazy, but it is my saving grace because I mean, I'm not autistic, I'm neurodivergent ADHD, but I'm definitely always the different one and did things differently. But for some reason, I just didn't care. Like I didn't care. I mean, I was beat up and picked on, and I just didn't care. I just kept doing Stacy. Like, yeah, there are consequences, but
Yeah,
but
like
whatever.
even after that teacher choked me, I still showed up as my, same self the rest because I didn't even know she was wrong. Because,
Yeah.
sometimes as an autistic person, you don't know
Hmm.
when somebody is mistreating you, but you don't
Hmm.
like how it made you feel. So I didn't even tell my parents. A friend of mine told my parents, and my dad was like, "Where's my daughter?" And my
Hmm.
friend was like, "The teacher choked her." And he just became a black dad. But
Yes.
I didn't know what she did was wrong, so I didn't even say anything. Somebody else had to tell my dad that she choked me.
Yep. And that happens a lot with parents. Like when parents call me and they're like, oh, and I'm like, that is inappropriate and we need to have a meeting. But they don't even realize it's inappropriate because of the ingrained culture of compliance.
Yeah, I was speaking to a parent when I did share the story about how the teacher choked me, and I was like, something that would have helped me instead of being asked how was your day, being asked how did people make you feel today probably would have helped me, and I would have been able to better express, what happened, and I probably would have been able to tell them myself and not have, another child be like, oh, she got choked, and oh,
Humans are complex,
yes.
very complex.
So I have about like 5 more minutes that I can stay on, and then I have to get ready for my podcast.
Well, this was great. I mean,
Yeah, I had a great time.
I might have to reach out and get you on our podcast. I do a podcast with Torin, an autistic gentleman in New York, and it's called Shifting the Narrative on Everything Autism. So I might have
I'd
to.
love to join you.
Yeah. Then my girls can, I know, I love my girls. I have one student. This little black girl is just gonna rule. I don't know what company. She's I'm just like, you guys better look out. She's coming. Like she's gonna like she's yeah, future Jasmine Crockett, but maybe not in politics. But she's fierce and she is brilliant. Like to the point where I have to work really hard to brilliant children are not like they're a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I love the work, but they're a lot of work.
I was definitely a lot of work. I remember one of my aunts, she was like to me one day, she was like, "Oh, you were so bad when you were a little girl." And I was like, "I wasn't bad, I was autistic," and then that shut her right up.
Yeah. I stayed. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think Roger's in charge of the Zoom ending. I don't see any more questions or lots of comments. Thank you. It's been very nourishing. Thank you, Ayanna.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody who came to listen to me speak. I really appreciate everybody. I'd love for you to join me on my social media platform. I'm very active. I interact as much as I can, because we get drained a little faster, but I do my best to, interact and be engaging and be welcoming because, like I said, there's not a lot of safe spaces.
thank you.
Thank you.